Hey, bestie. It's time for your next session of Real Talk Friend Therapy with your favorite big sister auntie queen, Daysha Veronica. What up, y'all? Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the start of spring. Now, first things first, because y'all know I'm a real ass Betty. I realized that my goal was to get out 2 episodes in 1 week for y'all. But oh my goodness, let me tell you, that friendship episode ended up being way more in depth than I originally thought it would be, which I hope y'all love. So that's actually why I'm going to say that's why I gave y'all 2 weeks to listen to it, not because my boyfriend's mom came into town and our very own Becky Harris celebrated her 36th birthday. But for real, I thank you all so much for riding with me through the kinks of scheduling. I have to tell y'all, this podcast just came out of pure passion for the subject and just wanting to get it out there. I had been talking about doing it for so long and just decided that 2024 was going to be the year. So logistics have been slowly creeping up on me, but all of this plus your amazing feedback is helping me get clarity on the best way forward. And I should definitely have a regular posting schedule finalized after our mid-season break. But that is nowhere near. I still have some amazing episodes lined up for you guys. But for now, know that I appreciate y'all holding me down through all the chaos of my life. Like, literally, so I have a 9-to-5 job. I've been planning my sister's baby shower. I'm flying to Boston next week for it. And then everyone and their mama's sister's cousins have been coming to my house recently, which I love. Like, I truly do love it. But it's definitely stretched me out. But we're doing it all in 2024, okay? So this week's episode is actually part of another mini series on the podcast called Why Are We Friends? And this is where I'm actually going to dig into my own friendships and figure out how exactly we decided to become friends. Since this is a new format on the podcast, I had to pioneer it with my best friend and producer, Becky Harris. Becky and I met during our time at BuzzFeed together, and we found friendship in a hopeless place. And to be honest, I feel like I find all of my closest relationships in hopeless places. Like my boyfriend and I, who we've been dating for almost 8 years now, mind blown. We had our first date on the worst election day in history. Y'all know what I'm talking about, 2016. And I mean, really, I found love in a hopeless place. So many people are like, how could you even think about being romantic with someone on that night? And honestly, it was also another like logistics thing where he was going to be gone for a week. I think he was going on a family vacation. And so if we didn't do it then, we were going to have to wait another week. And we were like, whatever. Anyway, to say that Becky is my rock is like an understatement. And in a lot of ways, I feel like my relationship with her gave me faith in humanity again. And I know, that sounds hella extra, but I just feel like my entire life I craved a type of closeness with my female friends that I felt like only existed on TV. Like I loved the relationships that I saw on Girlfriends and Sex and the City, but I felt like I struggled to find that same level of investment in my friendships. Like I definitely had people in my life who loved and cared about me, but I also know how I can be real over the top in how I love people in my life. Like I'll have photos of us all over my house and I'll have your birthday tattooed on my calendar and I'll call you at midnight to celebrate and I'll take off a day of work to help you move and I want to be front row at your event and obnoxiously cheering you on. And I know there are people out there who love receiving that, but they're definitely not great at giving that same energy. And to be honest, that's okay. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be that extra about how they express love in their friendships. I just wish people would be more upfront or self-aware about what their capacity is, because what is messed up are the people who will still want you at their side because they know you'll be their biggest cheerleader. But then when you got something important going on, they got like 50-11 excuses as to why they can't be there for you. So by the time I met Becky, I felt like I was a little bitter about not being able to find that type of person. And our relationship just truly allowed me to have more faith in the fact that there are people like me out there in the sense that we both really prioritize making sure that our close relationships are healthy and that there's this kind of cup filleth over mentality. We're always trying to make sure that the other one feels like they're being seen and heard and loved. And it's not lost on me that I found this type of closeness with a small, blonde, white woman named Becky, of all the names. And I'm excited to have her on in a future episode to talk about navigating interracial friendships, because I know a lot of Black people, and myself included, were taught from a young age to be real cautious about the relationships that we have with white people. And in a lot of ways, how we honestly would never be able to have a real relationship because of the power imbalances that can be inherent, especially with Black women and white women. And honestly, I think there is still a lot of unresolved trauma when it comes to the way that Black women and white women relate to one another. But what I love so dearly about Becky is her ability to acknowledge that, but not make it a thing. Like, when I talk about things that I uniquely experience as a Black woman in the world, she doesn't do the whole awkward guilt thing that white people will do sometimes, that basically centers the convo on them and how they suck, which then feels like they're asking you to say that they don't suck. She just hears me out and does her best to try and empathize with some of the awful situations I might find myself in. And also, her love of Black culture isn't from this like weird fetishizing place. Oh my gosh, what's the worst word? Fetish. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That, like, what's another word? That is an awful word. She doesn't make me feel creepy about the way that she loves Black culture. Like, she just finds our history so genuinely fascinating and worth talking about. Like, homegirl put me on game about how badass Harriet Tubman was, and honestly still is. And now we're both obsessed with Tina Turner because we just watched this documentary about her at my house a few weeks ago. And it's like, honestly, the first relationship I've had with a white person where I can make references to Black icons and she knows exactly who I'm talking about, does not miss a beat. And sometimes she might even know more than me. So I don't mean to hold y'all up from hearing our conversation, but when I say that I've never felt more seen by someone than Becky, it's coming from a real and true, genuine place. I would not talk like this about just any blonde white woman named Becky, okay? We actually joke about how she is doing the Lord's work for all the Beckys out here. Like, she has been doing some serious PR control for the white woman named Becky image. But here it is, how I became friends with the amazing Becky Harris. Becky, hi! Oh my God, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good, my love. I'm good.
Becky is truly like my rock. And if there was anyone that I was going to pilot this format with, it would be her. Okay, so as you know, this podcast is about friendship, and I wanted to have a series within the podcast where I explore how I became friends with the people in my life. Like, what did that look like? I feel like, you know, we're like, oh, making friends as an adult is hard. And so I want to like backtrack and think about, okay, well, how did I make friends with the really good friends that I have now? And is there something in there that we can mine for people to take forward as they try to make deep relationships?
Yeah.
So,
I just want to say, I'm actually really excited. So I knew we were going to talk about kind of like the beginnings of our friendship. And this morning when I was having breakfast, I was thinking about it and I was like, ooh, there's actually some questions that I haven't asked you. So can you tell me of your first memory of us meeting?
Okay, let's see. So I remember, we both met at BuzzFeed and I was an intern. Becky, you were a producer by that point, yeah?
Yeah, junior producer.
Okay, so Becky was a junior producer. I was an intern and we were working at this studio. They were shooting like a bunch of videos that I was providing support for.
Right.
And I walked into the room because they were having me in a lot of videos that day too. And I just remember...
Can you explain for someone who maybe doesn't how that works? Like, you weren't there as an actress. I mean, you were, but you were also meant to be,
So in OG BuzzFeed days when like we didn't really know what we were doing, like we were hired to make videos. And then at like some point they were like, yeah, why don't you guys also be in them so that we don't have to pay somebody because we are already paying you for your time. So we're exploiting our workers. And so, yeah, so they were just like, be in videos for us, like do stuff for us, be hands, be personality, give us your whole life story. But again, I'm also working. Like I'm also like setting up cameras, setting up lights, trying to learn, do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I like walk into a room and Becky, I think you're like editing or something. You're just like in the corner. And I just remember, I think I'm like helping a producer with like lights and stuff. And people have filtered out of the room. And you're like, hey, just know you don't have to be in these videos if you don't want to. Okay. Be careful of them using you being the brown girl in the video. And it was just like some real shit. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, coming in here with the realness. Thanks for the tips. I was like, oh. So yeah, that's like one of the first things I remember about meeting you, and like just
to me, that was so telling though, because like if you needed like evidence that of both how we are in terms of just being like super real, because like I didn't know you, I said that and you were like, I just remember you just being like, oh, good to know, like you just jumped, like you didn't even miss a beat, you were just like noted, like it was just
yeah. I'm like, tell me the real shit. Because it's just like, you know, everyone was just like, oh my gosh, it feels like such a dream to work there. And it's like, don't get me wrong, there were parts of working there that like the fact that like that was my first job out of college is just like mind blowing. And like, I also have really great memories too. But I mean, whenever somebody is willing to drop real shit at me, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to know you more.
Yeah. No, you were just like, I'm here, like, what's up? Yeah, it was. Yeah. Can I ask you, Day, like, how did you feel when you started? Were you like, I want to make friends? Like, did you feel people were welcoming? Did you feel like, because you had just come from college where you were surrounded by your friends, you were living with your friends.
Yeah. I mean, I love how you're like taking over this episode and it's just like interviewing me when I'm supposed to be interviewing you.
We can cut that part, but that's the part that I wanted to know this morning.
No, I love this. Like, let's do it. Yeah, it's interesting. I think when I first got there, I was so stressed out about housing. BuzzFeed told me like 2 weeks after I graduated that I had gotten the job, and I was living out in Claremont, which is where I went to school. And so I just remember commuting from Claremont into LA, trying to find housing. Very last minute, I ended up finding a place. And then it was like, I'm starting this job.
And this is where you would take the bus from, right?
It was 2 trains and a bus that I would take from Claremont to LA. It was...
No, but like your first apartment, it wasn't the one...
Oh, yeah. My first apartment was where I would take the bus. And it was amazing because it would drop me off right in front of BuzzFeed.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't stressed about making friends yet. I think I was just more like, whoa, because literally I'd like interviewed for BuzzFeed, I think in like, no, okay, not the interview. I had sent in my resume for BuzzFeed in like April of my senior year. And so when they didn't get back to me, I just completely put it out of my mind. So I graduated having no job, thinking that like I was just going to be broke forever. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere in like June, they were like, hey, can you come? And then 2 weeks later, or like a week later, they were like, hey, you're hired. We need you in LA in like 2 weeks. And so then it was just like, whoa, okay, here's my life now.
Holy shit, I didn't know that. That's how fast you had to flip that?
Yeah. So like I remember crying and I went home because after graduation, my grandfather died. And I just remember, so my college had given me 3 months to be able to stay in an apartment that I had for my senior year. So they were giving me until late August before they were going to kick me out. And so I remember being at home, like sobbing, being like, what do I do in my life? I'm like going back and I don't have a job and who am I? And then like, again, a week later, they were like, you got an interview. You got a job. Get your ass down here.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I think I was in my like first month of like working there. I was just more like trying to adjust to the fact that it's like, I have a job. And not only do I have a job, but I have a job at like this hot place that like everybody's interested in. Like, whoa.
Right. Okay. So friendship, when we met, it wasn't like that first day of high school where you were like, let's try to make friends. I actually don't remember what I was thinking either. I think I just remembered seeing you interact with people and thinking you seemed really cool. And I was at the time currently mad about the treatment of somebody else. Yeah. And I had like just told somebody, like I don't know, like one of our managers, I had just like, as you would say, like been an Aries and was just like, I have some feelings on this and I need to tell, you know what I mean?
Been an Aries. Okay. So I just wanted to jump in here because it's kind of hard to make out what Becky just said, but she was saying that she was being an Aries, which is something I would totally say because that's her zodiac sign. And if you know anything about Aries, you know they're real headstrong. So she was being her Aries self and talking to a manager about an intern who was also black and had just been let go before I got there for not making as strong of videos, even though part of that was because he was being used as the token black person in every video.
I was just like brushed off. So I remember I was like just coming off of that.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, this isn't happening twice. And then
No, I appreciated the hot tip. Like, I just think that there's something so like, because again, these were the first words that Becky said to me. Like, I don't even know if you said hi. I think you were just like, hey, don't let them use you. Hi, my name is Becky.
yeah, like our first conversation was like so fucking intense. You were just like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, no, total, like whatever. And then we just like clicked.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see what I have on my list of questions for you. So you kind of touched on it, but I'm curious if there's anything else there. So what was your first initial impression of me? And I'm also going to share my impression of you.
Okay. So when I remember there was the studio that we were filming in. So I walked out into the main studio area and I saw you with a few other like newer interns. And I don't know, I forget, which is surprising because usually I have a good memory on this, but I think I forget because I was pissed about the other thing. But like half my attention was on like the fight I was having with management. And then the other part of my attention was on checking out like the new recruits, right? And I thought you looked cool. You seemed like you were on it because I'm sure, as you know, like there was also crops of interns that showed up and just kind of thought they were like there to party.
Yeah.
And so you could tell right away, you were like, those are the ones that are partying. Those are the ones that are actually going to help me. Cool. So I walk out, I like assess which ones actually looked like good people. And then I went back into the room and then we had like a super real talk. And then I just remember, and I don't know why, being like, I feel like she's really good shit. And I think we could pick our intern. Do you remember that day? Was it something?
Yeah. So there was like the beginning stages of like, you guys would either choose us or we could say, I just remember we had to fill out a Google form saying like how the shoot went, or maybe you guys filled out a Google form. The producers
like
filled out a Google form about what it was like working with a particular intern.
Right. And for a lot of mine, they were pretty straightforward. I was not really like I wasn't into like big set stuff. So a lot of mine were really easy. So honestly, it kind of was like, who do you want to sit with at lunch? You know what I mean? Like I didn't really like need somebody for the day, but I also just didn't want to be alone. So I remember just being like, Daysha seems like cool shit. So I'll just like pick her. And then I just remember we did some shoot about like seniors versus, I don't even know, I forget. It was like seniors versus like freshmen or like something. And you were so good on camera. You were so funny. And we were playing friends on camera. And then by the end of the day, I was like, I feel like I've known this girl forever. I just like loved you. Like I was just like, you know what I mean? Because we were like playing college friends or something. That's my like piece of it. And then I feel like I blacked out and it was like 3 years later and you were just like my sister. I don't really remember like the build.
I know, it's insane. So I remember, now that you're bringing up like the Google forms and the selections, I really wanted to make sure that like I was getting good marks because I wanted to get hired. And so I remember we worked together on some food video. I think that was like one of our earliest videos. And I was so nervous about this. I was like, I just want this to be good. I just want her to like what I'm doing. And you were so blasé. You're like, oh my God, yeah, that's fine. I was just like, I don't think I did this right. You're like, whatever. I was like, oh, cool. And then like, I just remember we just kept getting like paired together a lot.
Right.
And like that you were always like, Daysha, like you actually helped me versus some other people who like being an intern.
And you knew it. I mean, you experienced it once you became a producer and then you had interns. You want someone you can vibe with.
Yeah.
You don't want someone who's just like technically proficient. right? Because if they're technically proficient, but they have a weird vibe, that can make the day weird.
Yeah.
But you also don't want someone who's just nice, who doesn't also help you. And there were so many, I think this is my theory. We had just entered the phase at BuzzFeed where we were getting kind of known. And so much of our current videos were us having fun in the office. And I think there was just a misunderstanding for a lot of the interns that like, that is play. Like that's a show, you know, like it's a set, like we're not no, like you need to show up and be like, this is a job.
Yes.
Okay. Like it was summer camp, and you were like one of the only interns I remember where if I was like, "Can you hold this mic?" You held the mic. Like I'm not going to mention the other guy, but there was another guy in your class, and I'd be like, "Can you hold this mic?" And he'd be holding it, and then I'd go to like turn the camera on, and he'd like put it down and like check on his phone, and I'd be like, "Hey, I told you to hold the mic," and he'd be like, "Oh, like still?" And I'd be like, "Yeah."
Because that's what you do.
Throughout the filming. And he'd be like, oh, right, cool. I had another guy that fell asleep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was just like, you came and you were nice and you were friendly, but the minute we had to actually like fucking work hard, you were there for it. Like,
yeah. And now that we're talking about it, I remember that was like my mentality where I was just like, I know this is a lot of fun, but it's still a job. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, as much as I like her, I am also remembering that she is my superior. And so like the minute it was like, it's time to work, I'm like, let's work. And then the minute it was like, we can chill, I'm like, okay. Yeah. No, I totally remember that now. But yeah, I'm trying to think my first, when you dropped that real talk, like I was just like, okay, like this is somebody that I feel like if I'm having like thoughts or feelings, like this is the person that I need to come to because she's not going to BS me. So I think that very early on, and it's something I still love about you is just like how straightforward, but you know, it's not like, because I think that there are people out there who are straightforward, but it's kind of a mask of rudeness. I feel like you're straightforward in like just a very real kind of way. Like, and it comes from a place of caring. And I think that that's something that I really saw latched onto right away. Also, Becky had the coolest apartment I've ever seen. Like, so if there are a ton of neighbors,
we also became neighbors very soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I moved out of
pretty soon. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had the person that I lived with was crazy. That became very clear. So once I got hired, I was out of there.
And that's the other thing now that I remember. Okay, so that was our second phase, was that we would both be working late. And
because I never wanted to go home.
Right. And a lot of people would go out the other way because that was where their cars were parked. But I walked home and you walked to your bus stop. So then we started walking to that corner together. Yeah. And I just kind of remember that, like your last podcast episode, you had like these, ring 3 friends or ring 4 friends where you have like fun. You can like shoot the shit in the office, but you stood out as somebody where like we would always have fun and vibe in the office. But then also like whenever we had a moment, like at the end of the day, or if something was bugging one of us, like we could always just be very real with each other.
Yeah.
And so I remember us walking to the bus stop once and you telling me about a crush you had. And then us walking to the bus stop again, and I think me telling you about something about like my mom or something. Like you just have these like very real. So then you started coming over, I think.
Yes. But yeah, Becky's apartment is like, if you look at a lot of old BuzzFeed videos, like her house was basically like a set. She should have been getting paid for that. But yeah, like I'm trying to remember, like, when was the first time you invited me to hang over just as like a hangout? Do you remember?
I don't. And I think probably the reason why is because a lot of times after we filmed, I think with you, it started blurring into like, I would be like, stay, we're going to order some food. And then Amy would come over. And then it just kind of naturally started
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And at that time, if you remember, Day, that was the time in which BuzzFeed was so lit. And that was the time where, like, on Thursdays and Fridays, work would kind of just turn into a party.
Oh, yeah.
So then, we're all just, like, randomly out at, like, Sassafras together. Mm-hmm. Or just, like, a bar together. Or, like, just the night is just, like, or just people are just, like, drinking at the office.
Yep.
And then, like, you and I are, like, let's go back to my place because, like, we got to get out of here and just get some food. I think it just kind of happened.
Yeah, that feels right. Okay. So what was the moment that made you want to be friends with me? Like, what was the moment that made you say, I want this girl to be my friend?
It's so funny that you asked that because that is how I usually operate with people, right? Where I'm like a hunter. I'm a huntress. Like I find people and I'm like, you. But with you, it was like, it happened so quickly. Like I vibed with you so quickly that I felt like it happened before I even realized it. Like I saw you, I appreciated that you were like on top of it. So then you came in to that office. I told you that. We had a really like cool, real conversation. And within like a matter of a week, we were like spending long days together. And I honestly feel like because if you play friends on camera, like I'm not even kidding. I think after like the second or third video of like playing friends, I was just like, I remember there being a time when Amy, my roommate at the time, I said something like, God, it's so Daysha or something like that. And she's like, haven't you, the intern? And I was like, yeah, it was so Daysha. And she said something like, you've known her for like 3 weeks. There was some like joke where I was like acting like I had you know what I mean? I was like, oh, yeah. Classic Daysha or like some shit like that. So yeah, I feel like it took Amy or like somebody else reminding me that they're like, you just met this person. Because I was just like, oh, she's my girl. Like I don't know. What is your memory of that?
I feel like for me, I'm trying to think. I think you like nailed it on the head in terms of like, you're one of very few relationships where like this friendship just kind of like snowballed. Like it's not like it was like a particular incident, but it was more so that because you're such in addition to being like a real person, like you give a shit about people's feelings. I think, you know what? You would always do emotional check-ins when we were shooting. You were like, how feelings check? Like, how are we doing? Feelings, emotions, like just making sure that like I was okay as a person and like you genuinely meant it. Like it wasn't like, you know, like, how are you? Fine, cool. All right. I need to hang this light. It was always like, so how are you, Daysha? Like, you know, how are you settling in? Like, what do you think about BuzzFeed? Da-da-da. Like, you know, you were just always so genuinely interested. And so I think it just feels so natural. Like it just feels like you were just my friend. It's not like I'm kind of waiting to see where this like, it just feels like the moment we met each other. Yeah, we're going to be friends.
It was like, yeah, we're friends. Yeah. It was so surreal. Like it was just, yeah. And I also remember thinking, I don't know when it was. There was a point when you were making stuff as a fellow. You were do you remember Team Yellow?
Yes.
I remember on Team Yellow realizing that you and we overlapped in our interests.
Yeah.
And then I think Lashes started.
Oh my God, Lashes. Wait, I'm trying, like, okay, because I remember I would come in with my lashes. So I had been seeing this woman since my senior year of college out in Claremont, and I strayed once. They did a horrible job. I strayed, and it was such a mistake. I went back, and she knew. She was like, you saw somebody else, didn't you? And I was like, oh my God. Yes, but I'm never going to do it again. And I didn't do it again. So like I would go from LA back to Claremont like every 3 weeks or a month. And then you noticed and you were like, oh my gosh, your eyelashes are gorgeous. And I'm like, I go to Claremont. Yeah. Beautiful. And so then I think that you were like, I need to try this because I think you saw
other people.
Yeah. Didn't like it. And we're like, I want to go to your person. And so then I think that made I think that's when our friendship like really deepened was eyelashes. Because
it was like a 45-minute?
Yeah, 45-minute ride in the car. So we were spending like 2 hours.
And then doing lashes. You're like,
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Lashes. I think it was like, we were like cool. And I feel like we were like friendly and we liked each other. But I think like lashes is where like things got like really deep and where we just like, we really started, you know, just having like these heartfelt conversations. And then it's so funny because now we're also best friends with our eyelash lady too. Like,
I know, and I love her. Yes. And I still feel like I haven't found someone who takes her place.
She had been my eyelash lady for like 5 years, but the pandemic was the reason why I stopped seeing her and I haven't had lashes since. It's just so hard for me to commit to. I mean, I remember when I was going to grad school, I wanted to go to UCSD, which is in San Diego. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm still planning my trip to come up for lashes. So I'll see you like at least like once a month or something.
I know. I love that.
Oh my God. Yes. Eyelashes. Yes. Okay. What do you think works well about our friendship?
I think very similar to the last podcast episode of what you were saying about the duality of having core values that are the same, but then being different enough that there's like interest and intrigue and you feel like you're learning stuff. I feel like I don't know, I think it's kind of, it's going to sound so funny, but I think it's kind of similar to like looking for a partner, like a romantic partner. Like before you can even get into like, do we like the same movies and do we like whatever, it has to be like, are you looking for the same thing in this romantic relationship, right? And I think we look at friendship the same. It means a lot to us. We feel the same type. We have a very similar value and core belief about like being there for the few people that we hold very dear, and then who we want to be as people. And I think I'm trying to put it, you know, Amy mentioned it once. She was just like, because when we were getting close at BuzzFeed, she was like, it makes sense because she's the person that I think uses BuzzFeed the way that you are using, but you know, like my alopecia video and your like poem videos, like I just felt like you and I were very like symbiotic in a very interesting, like artistic way, but like entertainment and professional way, and then interpersonal way. But then in all of those things, we're also like polar opposites in so many ways. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of made it cool because we could come together about a mutual shared core thing. But then like you're doing, you know, plays and poems and I'm doing God knows what else. You know what I mean? Like I'm making animal videos and crap. Like it's just.
You loved corgis? She's doing a video on pigeons right now that I'm just like,
I'm doing like, or, you know, I would be just doing like 7 things hot guys do or something.
Yeah, you were doing a lot of like relationship content.
Right. But it was always with the underlings of like, you know, interest in like gender norms.
Yeah, you're like very newsy, almost politics, but like not like it's like this human interest of politics, I guess. Yeah. Like the human interest side of politics.
That's it. Where like it overlaps very much with like sociology, psychology, history. Yeah. Our other very good friend is an economist. I feel like we all kind of just like the interest of like studying people in the world.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But then also the coolest thing, and I would say this about Amy too, it's really hard to find people like that, but then who you can also talk for like 3 hours about cats. You know, like you can have like the super deep thing, and then you can also just be like my text threads with you, Day, are such a back and forth between like poignant feels on where America is as a country, and then like look at this cat in this wig. Like it's just
oh my gosh, you would get like whiplash looking at like our text.
It really is just
how can these two people Oh my God. Becky sent me the best cat video yesterday. It was so great. DeMonte, get off this wig. It's $19.99. DeMonte. So good. But then I think like right before I had sent her an article about backlash that like Steve Harvey was getting about like talking about Trump. And then Trump's
it was just like it's like, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now, is there anything that you think I could do better in our friendship?
You know what's funny? So I knew you were going to ask this. I wasn't thinking about it recently, but I was thinking about it when I was at your place like a week or so ago, and you told me that you were going to ask this. And I don't want this to be a cop-out because I want to be able to like be real with you, and it's important. You know, you've been very good when like I didn't come through when your book came out. You know, like you've been very good about like, it's good to have, I think I one time was like I wanted you to like be ready quicker for lashes. Like we've had like random moments of like being real or whatever. Yeah. So it's not that I want to cop out and like not come to you about something, but I was actually thinking, I feel like years ago, something that I would have been like, oh, maybe I should talk to her about this, you actually like fixed on your own, which was sometimes, I don't remember, this was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago when we discovered you were going through a lot. This was like right after, probably in the midst of your, am I allowed to say like breakdown? What do we call that?
Yeah, it was like emotional breakdown. Yeah, probably.
Right. Sometimes you would be so business oriented when like, if I showed you something or if I had done something or if Amy and I were telling you something, there was this like, there could be this like wall up where you would just kind of give, like there was a lack of like warmth because you were just very like, no, that's good. Or no, that's like, there would just be sometimes it was almost like it was like business mode day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think part of that was because we also were we were such work friends that like sometimes like I would tell you something and you would give me almost like feedback like we were giving notes on a video. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that was years ago. Like I feel like one thing I love about you is like, and I try to do this with you too, is like we try to do the labor ourselves. You know what I mean? Like catch ourselves with stuff. And I remember like a year after that or something, you were like, I think I need to talk to somebody. I think I need to like deal with my depression. I think sometimes I'm just like, I'm like turned off a little bit. Like I'm closed up, like there's anxiety. Like you called it out and then you worked on it. You know what I mean? Like, so I think really what I was witnessing was just you going through stuff and you didn't have as much to give because you were just keeping it together.
Yeah.
Do you remember that it was like it was when you were really going through it?
It sounds like 2018 me, like between like 2017 and 2018, like I was a hot mess. But yeah.
It was like one of those things, Day, where it wasn't like, I was never offended by anything, but I felt like we'd be at work and then we'd leave work and we'd talk about something else. And it was like, oh no, girl, we're done with that. Like you can, like there can be, like you can relax, but you were just so, but like then I went through the same thing too. Like I'm not trying to put it all on BuzzFeed, but it's like,
I mean,
it is really important to not let work destroy your mental health.
No, totally. And I had to learn that lesson at BuzzFeed. I mean, I just like, again, I also don't want to put it all on BuzzFeed, but like, I will say like BuzzFeed really fucked me up. Like there were just so many unhealthy work practices and mental health things that I had to unlearn after the fact and then also like, I wasn't in therapy for years. And so like there was just a lot of like stuff that I had to unpack and that I worked through once I did go back to therapy.
Yeah.
And
prior
that I
to therapy, you were like always, you couldn't leave work at work.
No,
and What's funny though, is that as I'm saying this, I guarantee you at that time when I was noticing that you were doing that, I probably was doing the exact same thing. Like I probably was noticing that Daysha can't leave work at work because I probably couldn't leave work at work. You know what I mean? Like, I think we were both probably, and then do you remember this? Obviously you have to remember this. The moment I knew that we were both going to be okay, like the moment I knew that this work obsessed culture wasn't going to win and that we were not going to just be hardened and just be these like robots constantly working, but we were going to like finally like listen to ourselves and like be real with each other, it had been like several weeks of like me being like, yeah, it's always work, Daysha. Like I just feel like but that's what she wants to do. That's fine. That's whatever. I don't want to push it, but like I wish sometimes I could get like non-work Daysha. And then you called me you were at BuzzFeed and you were like, can you come pick me up?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So I have a question here that's like, what's your like favorite friendship memory? And like, I was going to say that is like one of my favorite memories because again, in being like really fucked up, this is at a point where like I was so done with BuzzFeed. Like I wasn't even sitting at my desk. Right. I was sitting in like this like edit bay that was in a whole separate building from everybody. Right. Like
you were just attached because you were just trying to keep it together.
Yeah. And like, I just remember that I was like editing something and I just started crying. And there are these two people behind me that are having conversations and I'm just like breaking down. So I like text Becky and I'm just like, can you take me? And she was like, I got it. Don't worry about it. But then at the same time, like, cause she was at home because she was dealing with her lupus and you like didn't have your key or you locked yourself out. And so then you had to go
myself out.
You locked yourself out. You had to like go to your boyfriend's house, then get the key. You're trying to tell our manager that like, I need to leave. And this is where like, I just loved you so much because like, he was just like, but did she finish her videos? And you were just like, yeah, I don't think that matters right now. So I'm taking her.
Right.
You locked yourself out.
We just got you out of there.
And then I just remember you like rolled up and like you didn't have your wig on yet or anything, but you're like, I'm here. I'm here. And
I bolted so fast out of the apartment.
Oh, it was great. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, I think for me, it's like one of my favorite.
That's also when like I knew, it's going to sound crazy, but that's when I knew you were going to be okay. Is that weird to say? But it was like,
oh yeah,
you had been like retreating and it was like all business. And then part of me was like, maybe that's just how she wants it. You know what I mean? Like she just wants to be like all consumed because I was being all consumed and I didn't know if I should be fighting it or not. And then when you were like, no, get me the fuck out of here, it was like a wake-up call for you, but it was also kind of like a call for me too.
Yeah. Oh my God. What a moment. Yup. I remember. Oh my God. I just remember you pulling up in the Volvo. I'm here. It was great. And then you told me the saga of you trying to get there. And it was just like exactly what I needed.
I'm here.
It really was.
I was like, you're going to have a safe space, but first we're locked down.
Okay.
Do you remember, can I tell you mine?
Yeah.
Do you remember, I mean, there's been a million, like, all-star moments that you've had with me, a million. But one that stands out because it was one of the earlier, like, I'm losing my shit, was when I was going through a breakup, and it was a very difficult breakup. And I was sitting at my desk next to you at the office, and I don't know why, but like just something like hit me. And I started like crying in the office, and I just like, I couldn't keep it together. And it was like this huge flood of all of this stuff. And I just remember how like you just epitomized what a best friend is. Like you were just fucking there. You just helped me get my stuff. You walked back with me all the way to my apartment. You asked me questions, but when you like, I just needed to cry, you just like let me cry. You came up to my apartment, you sat with me, and you were just like I think about that more, I think, than you might realize. Like that moment of just feeling so broken, and you were just like there.
Yeah. No, I remember that moment. I think it was also the first time I think I'd seen you cry too. And I like hated it because I was just like, I don't want you to be hurting like this.
Right.
I was like, where the fuck is he?
You didn't even care, man, because I ugly cried all the way down Hollywood and Vine. You know, like it was full on day, everyone to see. And you're just walking side by side with this girl who's like losing it. It was just...
I know, that was a rough time and a rough relationship. Oh. Okay, what has our friendship taught you about making friends?
My dog is so high behind me, Day.
Is she making any noises?
She's just making like she's so high. She has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, Pumpkin got her womanhood taken away today.
Yeah.
We'll see if it makes her any less horny, because she's got feelings down there. Is there anything that our friendship has taught you kind of about the process of like making friends? Like, and I don't know if you necessarily had like a negative outlook on like the friend making process to begin with, but
I just think that I feel like there is a fear a lot of times. Okay, so for example, we were producers together on the same team, right? Mm-hmm. And then I believe you left, and it was like, okay, now we don't sit together at work. We like don't make stuff together. What is our new dynamic now? You know? And then we had a very similar group of friends, but then some people moved out of town. Some people had babies, got married. And then we didn't always have like the same like social network. And it was like, oh, well then what's our thing? And then we go to Lashes together. But then it was like, okay, but now we're not going to Lashes. Like there was all these changing contexts of like how we could come together. And I think you've been one of my best friends that have helped me overcome the anxiety of change, because like you've definitely helped me realize that like change is okay. Like if you have a dynamic with a close friend and whatever that context is shifts, don't lead with anxiety. Like embrace the fact that they're changing. You know what I mean? Like it was like I to this day can't believe how genuinely, even though I was going to miss you when you moved to I can't believe how genuinely happy I was for you, which sounds awful, but like, because that's like my nightmare. My nightmare was like you moving far away. But by that point, like you had like taught me that I genuinely believe with all of my heart that I was like, we will stay close, because like our context was being like friends who were down the street. And I was like, we'll just make a new contact. Like we'll figure it out. Yeah. And I feel like you really taught me that, because you were very good at seeing me be anxious about that. And you would just like call it out and be like, I'm moving, but we're still close. And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I remember when I was choosing from grad school, it was just like so funny because I was choosing between UCLA and NYU, and it like had you on your toes, because you would like literally be like, I'm going to break your legs if you think about leaving California. I think I might even have video of when I like showed you that I was going to UCLA, and like you were just so overjoyed.
Oh my God.
And you were like, I've given myself a pep talk. Like, I will accept if you decide to go to New York. But like, I think for me, because I went to boarding school, like I've always had to, like, I'm not used to like having my friends with me all the time. And so I knew that like when I was like, this is never going to be the end of us just because I'm moving somewhere.
Yeah. And I think that is, I don't know, I think it's a good lesson in a factor of friendship that I never thought about when I was younger. I think when I was younger, I obsessed more about like how alike we are, or like if the friendship like makes sense like from other people's, I don't even know what I thought about in terms of like with friends. But I guess as I got older, I realized it was like, I think I kind of realized this with like relationships too. There's such this weird, when you're younger with friends and with romantic relationships, the world kind of acts like there's just this assumption that we all know why we do this. We all know why we have friends and we all know why we date, right? And kind of going back to your last podcast, it's actually like not true. Like the people you grow up with, like you might all have different definitions of why you're a friend, or why you care about family, or like why you want to be in a relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I now as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually like super important to make sure you find people where like you vibe on the whole, like, why are we even doing this? Does that make sense, Day?
No, totally. Like, I just think that like when we were younger, it was just like, okay, this person sits next to me in class and I guess we're talking.
Right.
And then now I guess we're friends. And she invited me to her party. And like, you know, like it was just kind of like, I feel like our relationship with developing friendships has kind of been like, yeah, like we're around each other a lot. So I guess you're my friend.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And like, we're not like super clear about like what that process is. And like, that there's more to it than like just kind of like, yeah, we're around each other all the time, so I guess now we're friends. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it speaks so much to what you said in the last episode, which was like, as you get older, you realize it's actually like a really healthy thing to think and have these kind of conversations where you're just like, well, what is a friend to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where am I in your rings?
Right. And like, do we have a similar map? And it's okay if we don't.
Yeah.
But if we have similar language, then it's just going to help us like that much more. And yeah, I just feel like you helped with like secure friendship feelings.
Aww.
If you had to move to New York, Daysha, I would still support you, but I would not like it. Like I just...
You're still not going to break my legs?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I loved that joke. Okay. So to close out every episode, we have this amazing game called Scroll, Double Tap, or DM. That was from Real Talk Love Therapy Days. And so basically I will give you 3 options and you will decide who you would scroll past, who you would give a little like to, or who you would DM in a friendly way. Okay, so for this one, I feel like you'll love these options. So my options are Mindy Kaling, Mindy Lahiri, or Kelly Kapoor.
Oh my God. Okay, so scroll is like we go past them.
Yeah, so scroll is basically like, I'm good.
Oh my God, this is so hard.
Yeah, so Becky loves Mindy Kaling. I also am a big fan as well, and I knew this would be challenging.
This is so hard. Okay, I think because I have I already have the character so intimately in my brain of Mindy Lahiri. Mm-hmm. I think I would scroll past because that's already, I feel like I've reached the depths of that.
Okay.
And then I would double tap Kelly because she's just hysterical.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and then I would slide into the DMs of Mindy Kaling.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think that was my ordering as well. Like Mindy Kaling, because like she's a comedic genius that I don't think gets her flowers enough. Right. And then, I mean, Kelly Kapoor, because I am obsessed with The Office. It's always on at my house. Always. It is. And like, who doesn't love, like, I'm Kelly Kapoor, the business bitch. And then for me, it was scrolling past Mindy Lahiri because while I have seen the Mindy Project, I'm not as familiar with it as I am with The Office. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's so fun that we scroll past, but for completely opposite reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God, I loved having you. And this will definitely not be the end of you being a guest on the podcast. Like, no. I love everything about you. Yeah. I love you. We're dying in the same casket.
Yeah, that's I know. For people who don't know what that is, whenever I have a very big fear of death, and whenever I think about it, Daysha comforts me by being like, we'll be in the same bed together, holding hands, and we'll go out together. I'm like, it truly comforts me. It's so fucked, but it does.
Even though I'm like 20 years younger, it's fine.
Fetus.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm only like, I think I'm like 5 years younger, so it's fine.
Yeah, but like fetus. You will always be the baby.
Yes. That's my nickname, the fetus. So this was definitely a harder conversation to wrap up because Becky and I just started talking as we do. Honestly, like this episode could have been recorded forever and ever and ever. I love talking to her so much. And if you are interested in hearing some of our conversation that happened after the fact, definitely make sure that you sign up for the Patreon. I finally got some time to actually flesh it out and make the levels make sense. And so you'll have a much clearer picture of what are the rewards and how they correlate to prices and things like that. So definitely hop on there if you want to hear more of our conversation. But Becky and I just got so wrapped up that I totally forgot to ask her where you guys can find her or follow up with her if you love her as much as I do. Now, as a joke, she said smoke signals because she doesn't have any active social media profiles, which I know is heartbreaking to hear. Like, personally, I keep telling her that the world needs more of her. And, you know, she's working on it. So she's going to let me know where you guys can find her, and I will drop that in the show notes and on social media. But I know you'll definitely be able to find her on future episodes of this podcast. I know that for sure. And again, if you want to see bonus content in relation to our conversation, definitely head on over to that Patreon that is also in the show notes. Now, y'all gotta give me a little bit of time to get myself together to get that stuff up there though. But it's gonna be there and it's gonna be great. All right, besties, have an amazing week, maybe two. I will catch you next time. I'm out. If you are loving Real Talk Friend Therapy, don't forget to show us some love with a 5-star review wherever you are listening, and to join our Patreon to unlock bonus recordings, videos, private chats, and more.